Okay, so we are just waiting outside of the veterinary clinic ahead of him having the appointment to shave his leg. So I decided to just wait outside to just keep him nice and calm so he doesn't get too stressed, and he is seeking reassurance from me there, which I'm more than happy to give him. And then once we're inside the veterinary clinic, I get out my super high value treat. So I've chopped up loads of pieces of cheese for him. And the first step is to get him muzzled. Now, Chase can be resistant to wear the muzzle, especially when he's extra cautious and knows that he's somewhere new, like the vet, or somewhere that he is just on more alert and a bit cautious of what's happening. So he's just excited to see the vet walk in, but I don't want them to interact too much until he's got his muzzle on. So I'm just clicking and rewarding. At the moment, you can see he was a bit hesitant there at putting his nose into the muzzle. So I'm just taking it nice and slow and marking and rewarding any time that he targets towards the muzzle. And then I'm just building that up until he puts his face all the way in. And then I can feed through the end of the muzzle. And eventually I can look to fasten it around his ears. So you can see he's getting more comfortable wearing it, and then I take the opportunity to fasten it on quickly and reward him for having it on and just keep him nice and calm. Okay, so I discussed with my trainer beforehand, and we decided there was no way that I was going to be able to desensitize him. I only had a week's notice that to get him prepared for this. So we decided it was best to try and get it over with as quickly as possible, and I would just need to restrain him during the process. So we'd worked on having him sit between my legs, which he's more comfortable doing, and then I'm going to go and put one arm underneath his leg to expose that for the nurse and hold his neck with my other arm. So I'm just asking the nurse to feed him initially to get him comfortable with her being in front of him, and then I'm going to feed him while I get him into position with the restraint. So I'm not holding too tight, but just enough to get him in position. And you can see he is extremely worried. So I'm trying to use my voice to keep him calm and reassured, but obviously I have adrenaline rushing through me as well. It's not a nice situation at all. He's super wriggly. The sedatives didn't really seem to have much effect at all. And honestly, I'm just trying to hold him to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. So you can see there, he's just asking for reassurance and just literally curled into me, terrified. But it's over, and that's the main thing. So the vet confirmed she managed to get enough shaved for the bloods, and as horrible as that was, the whole thing from being in the room to this point lasted 4 minutes. So it's not nice, but it was done as quickly and as kind as possible without putting him to sleep, which would have been the next step if we couldn't do this safely. So we're just trying to end on a positive note here, and the nurse is also feeding him some cheese and just bringing him back nice and calm. So this is now the Tuesday morning of his blood sample. So the leg was shaved on the Friday, so we had a few days to decompress before the bloods needed to be taken, and we agreed with the vet to up his dose quite significantly due to the lack of effect it had on the Friday. So he is on a mixture of gabapentin and trazodone, and we have this time gone to pretty much the maximum that he can have for his weight. And I gave him this the evening before, so the Monday night, and then here on the Tuesday morning. So he's on a very high dose. Obviously that is safe and was agreed by the vet for him, with the view to try and make him as sleepy as possible, so he's less stressed during the appointment. So my trick here for giving the medication, because Chase will spit out tablets, I coat it in, this is liver paste, and I basically sandwich it in between super high value treats. And the trick is to also make sure that you have another treat in your other hand for them to focus on. So as soon as you put this in their mouth, which should somewhat disguise the tablet because it's got high value and it's coated in liver paste there, but just in case, I always have another treat ready to give straight away to kind of make sure they swallow that first treat with the tablet and don't spit that out. And then I'm just letting him lick the bowl clean here because he was a good boy and took all of his medication. So the next step was to apply some numbing cream, which I purchased, which was actually for humans, but I was advised would be suitable for this also. So that was another reason why we split the appointments and had him have his leg shaved a few days before, so that I could apply the numbing cream and he hopefully wouldn't feel the bloods being taken during the appointment. So I have the cream with me, so I've got an assistant here who is keeping Chase occupied and feeding him lots of cheese, and I am going to go ahead and apply the cream to the shaved area. You can see he's a little bit resistant here, so he has had his medication, but the second set that he had this morning wouldn't have kicked in just yet, so he's kind of only half of the dose that he needs to be. And then it came with a sticky cover, which I just need a hand applying here, and that should just stop him being able to lick it off. But obviously, because this was intended for humans, I didn't want that to come off with his fur, so I'm also going to wrap it with a bandage. So he's definitely not very happy, and I am hoping that the meds kick in and he's slightly less worried during the blood sample. But we managed to get it done, so I'm glad that I did get him muzzled, because he's definitely a bite risk here, and I'm just trying to get it over and done with as quickly as possible and trying to cause the least amount of stress ahead of the blood appointment. But yeah, he started to calm down now, and I'm just wrapping the leg with the bandage, giving him a bit of fuss and telling him it's okay and just that reassurance, and we are giving him plenty of cheese. So this was the first step complete. He's come to see Molly. So we are back at the vet's, and I followed the same process as previous to get him muzzled, but he is actually very sedated at this point. He actually missed and face planted the car trying to jump in, so he was very sleepy. His movements were very slow, and I was super confident that hopefully this meant that the appointment would be a lot less stressful for him. He obviously is still alert and he is still responsive, but he is very sleepy, so I'm just taking off the bandage at this point, and it's not really phasing him at all. And then I realised that I also need to pull the sticky plaster off, which again isn't super comfortable. So I'm a little bit worried, but he doesn't seem too bothered. So it's off to a good start. And I do manage to pull that off for him. So he is a little bit uncomfortable, but as with humans, I think speed is of the essence. So I just try and get him distracted and pull that off, and we manage. Good boy. Thank you. So if I get him back in the hold position, yeah?
I'm going to put the tourniquet on. Kirsty will feed him and try and distract him.
Actually, sorry, I'll just use that to get him. Just take this off so you're not all tangled. So we're just taking it nice and slow and just trying to not startle him. So everyone's approaching really slowly, and we obviously have the cheese as a distraction. So it was great that I managed to have a second nurse attend also. And I was really surprised at this point. As I say, he'd been so sleepy. I was really surprised at how quickly he snapped out of being sedated. And I guess this is what survival instinct really means, because he is fighting for his life again here, despite, as I say, being so sleepy that he could barely jump into the car just moments before. So it just shows how much the body can snap out of that state, and the adrenaline and cortisol and everything is flooding his body right now, and he is super stressed and his body is fully in the fight mode for survival. So we're just taking our time. At this point, I'm starting to worry and panic that we may not get this done. So we're just trying to take it one step at a time, and I needed a better hold of him in the restraint. I didn't quite have him in position the first time. Such a worried boy. It's so sad. I wish he wasn't this stressed and knew that we're doing it for the best. But at this point, I really worry, and I don't want him to get so stressed. I don't want him to have any kind of real breakdown. So I just take a minute, just try and calm him down, and I think we just regroup. The vet wants to give it a go. Obviously, like I said, the next plan, if we can't get this done safely, would be to have to put him to sleep under anaesthetic each time, which isn't ideal and obviously has risks in itself. So if that can be avoided, then we will try and get this done. But obviously Chase's well-being is a priority. So I'm just giving him a minute, and we're hoping that the sedation starts to kick back in and he does calm down.
We're just trying to help you.
Yeah.
Right. So I try and get him in and see him again.
Yeah, just see how it goes.
Oh. Right, let's spin you around. Right. Spin.
That's it.
That's a good boy.
Okay, against it. And that's the feet now.
Chase. Okay, wait a second. Sorry, let me just get a better grip of it.
Yeah. Lucky's cheese oriented.
What's he
Tell you
eating? You don't get it. Look at this one. Here.
Exactly. You did get it. You did. I saw you get it.
I'm surprised that he gets back into position so willingly, but it doesn't last long. And I didn't know at this point that the vet had already grabbed his leg and kept hold of it, that I thought she'd let go. So that was really useful, because that seemed to be what was panicking him the most. Someone coming towards him and obviously trying to grab his leg. So the fact that she just didn't let go and she's just kept tight hold of it means that he can calm down now and come down, and she already has hold of his leg for when he does. So we're just feeding him cheese here, and he's slowly starting to relax a little bit. And it looks like he's kind of giving into the process, which is really sad. It's somewhat learnt helplessness, which we want to avoid where possible. But he also needs to understand. So this is his last little fight here. I think the last bit that he has in him. And unfortunately, he needs to understand that this has just got to happen. And I wish I could explain that to him, but we can't. So we're just trying to get it done as quickly as possible. So he's completely given up here and has calmed down. So I'm hoping that obviously that is the meds working as well. And he's probably exhausted from all that fighting. And the vet is able to take the bloods really easily at this point. He's actually just taken the cheese right over the top of where she's got the needle. But obviously we'd applied the numbing cream, so he shouldn't be feeling anything. This is all the anxiety in his head and the stress of not knowing what was happening and the fear of someone approaching him and grabbing his leg. Actually, the process of taking the bloods was the easiest part, because he didn't feel a thing. So, like I say, once she'd had hold of that leg and then he managed to calm at that point, the rest was pretty smooth sailing, which really surprised me. So I was just obviously giving him as much reassurance as I could during it. And now the vet is just feeding him some cheese, which, you know, dogs don't hold grudges. So he's already calmed down and is much happier. So I can take that muzzle off and give him lots of love for being such a good boy. I'm very proud of him.